From the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and we want to talk to everyone about things to watch in training camp, because there's going to be a lot of stories and a lot of things that can kind of signal to us what exactly is going on with this roster, what exactly is going on with this team. We want to kind of go over these so we're all on the same page as we get into it.
Yeah, and also so that when you're listening to other people talk about 49ers training camp, you know what to drown out. You know what's just feeder, nonsense, filler. They're just, trying to buy the time, because there's certain things that you shouldn't read too much into. Yes. It doesn't mean a whole lot. And then there are things that are going to have a very big impact on what this team does on the field. And you know what has a big impact on this channel? Liking the video right now, subscribing if you haven't already, and commenting down below. Let us know what you think some things are right before the video starts and what you're most excited for, because we're going to get into a lot of that right now. And what's the first thing on your list of things that people need to be paying attention to heading into training camp?
The very first thing I want to look at is who is dressed and practicing and participating, and who is on a side field working out. So D Ford, Jalen Hurd, any of these guys that are coming back from injury, I want to see where exactly they're at on the field. If they're working on the sideline, that means that they're easing him in early on, but later on in camp is really where it comes in. If they're doing this the whole time with D Ford, they're definitely protecting him. But at some point, Jalen Hurd needs to be in the offense operating with these guys. And so when that happens, will give us a good idea of where he's at and how the 49ers plan to use him. So I think those things are something to watch. That's a definite story that we need to pay attention to, is where these guys are working out and how many times they're actually dressing and suiting up for practice.
I 100% agree with you there. Just knowing who's on the field, who's participating. Listen, I don't think people need to overreact at the very start, and that'll be the balance there, right? Paying attention and knowing where they're at, but then also seeing the progression. Just because you see somebody on day one not there and not doing certain things in certain areas of the field doesn't necessarily mean they're not healthy. Again, there may be a plan. In 2 days, they may be practicing with the team again, and if you're the guy day one who sees them out there, or girl, out there watching, right, what they're doing, and he's on a side field, he's never going to play, he's not ready, he's always hurt. If 2 days later he's on the field, you're going to look like a fool and feel like a fool. Don't be that person. Take a deep breath, let it happen naturally, and just see where it takes you, because in a day or two, they may not be over there anymore. And if you're the guy out there going, he's never healthy, he's never playing, he's never on the field, I don't even know why we keep this guy around, and then 2 days later he's practicing with the team, and then the first preseason game he shows out, that's going to be a really cold take that might be featured on a show we have coming up. You never know. So just be careful. The 49ers Cutback is watching.
Yeah, I think that's a storyline that has to be watched. But there's other ones as well. Like, one of those is how many reps, percentage-wise, Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance take with a starting unit.
100%.
If Trey Lance is having equal snaps with Jimmy Garoppolo, this is an absolute real battle, and he has an opportunity to take the job. If it's more of a 65-35, which is what I kind of expect, then Jimmy Garoppolo's in the driver's seat and is projected to start week one. And Trey Lance would completely have to unseat him by not only showing out in practice, but showing out in preseason. Mm-hmm. So that is going to be something to watch, because if they are sharing snaps 50-50, it's going to be very scary for Jimmy Garoppolo.
100%. And you know what? I'll say day one, I won't be shocked if Kyle Shanahan goes 50-50. But as days 2, days 3, day 4 starts progressing, if that split is still the same and it's not starting to trend more towards Jimmy, then yeah, if I'm Jimmy, I'm concerned as a 49ers fan. My interest is now fully piqued. This might be the only thing I want to pay attention to when it comes to watching training camp, because if they're 50-50 splitting throughout the first week or two of training camp, Jimmy is under no means the guy that they have in their mind going in. Kyle Shanahan would be giving, at this point, every single opportunity to Trey Lance to take that job and give him a reason to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, that's one of the things to watch, though. It's just what that break is and how he uses those limited snaps that they actually get. How he divides it is going to be very impactful in what happens in this quarterback room.
Oh, agreed, 100%. Another thing to keep an eye on and a thing to be watching is when they're doing installation or they're just doing little scrimmage sessions, a little, the hand touch. No one's going to the ground, nothing crazy like that. how much are the Niners running downhill and how much of the horizontal stuff is being put into place? How many touches and carries is Raheem Mostert getting? How many touches and carries is Trey Sermon getting? Because it may give you an insight, not too much, but an insight into what they want to do going forward and what they're putting in place. But the big one for me is just watching the position battle between Daniel Brunskill, right, and Aaron Banks. If they're going in, and another thing there, if they're splitting 50-50 as well, not only is this a knockdown battle, it's another situation, right, where Aaron Banks is the guy they want to be the guy and they want to be the starter. I'm more interested to see them in their individual stations when they're working on footwork and things of that nature, what Banks looks like, because if all the footwork stuff is there and he looks clean, getting in and out of breaks, getting up to second level, things of that nature, Daniel Brunskill's in a world of hurt.
Yeah, and when you were talking about the running backs, as far as the vertical and the outside zone, when you're talking about that, you're looking at these guys, don't look so much at who's carrying the ball and just what they're doing.
Yep.
Because Raheem Mostert's obviously not going to get as many carries in training camp because he already knows what's going on. He's very familiar with this. You can kind of just bring him along. He's helping Trey Sermon, helping Elijah Mitchell. Those are the guys you're going to see take more carries because they're still learning this offense and trying to grasp the timing with the offensive line, everything.
Well, and there's the wear, like you talked about, the wear and tear, right, on a running back.
It's true. So right off the bat, if you see Trey Sermon taking more in practice,
that doesn't mean
it's okay.
Yes, it doesn't mean Trey Sermon's running back one.
Yeah.
What I would want to see is where are they handing him where is he going when he gets the ball? Is he going downhill or is he running outside zones?
I think it's going to be both.
I think it's going to be both too.
And as far as Brunskill and Banks goes, that is going to be complicated, as far as the way it goes. But the way with offensive linemen, you want to not only do well in drills, but when they get their 11-on-11 time in practice, that's when they're going to show out. And they're also going to be going against one of the best defensive lines in football. So these 11-on-11s are going to be impressive. I don't care about the overall results of every single play. What I want to see is, were you in the right spot? Were you, reaching? Were you making the right block? Did you have your hands in the right place? If you get beat by a great player, that is understandable. Results don't always dictate actual success. Just doing things right consistently, that's what you're looking for in these practices. Not so much, he got beat by Zach Kerr on this play. Don't worry about that. What you're worried about is, but was his feet consistently in the right spot? Was his hands consistently in the right spot? And if they were, you don't worry about results. You keep moving forward.
Correct. And notice that we didn't bring up one-on-ones because one-on-one drills and situations are not going to dictate any amount of success for any of the members of the O-line or any of the members of the D-line. In one-on-one situations, one guy is going to win, one guy is going to lose. And if one guy consistently loses in one-on-ones, that's not the end of the world. Because it's a one-on-one situation.
Yeah.
And guess what? Not every single snap is going to be a one-on-one situation.
And these guys know each other better than anyone. They're lining up how many snaps against each other. Nick Bosa got owned by Trent Williams last year in training camp. Okay, well, let's be honest. Nick Bosa is going to own everyone else out there. This is a different world and it's a different thing. One-on-ones are not a good way to look at things. If someone's breaking down these one-on-ones, they're looking at it from a different perspective than they should be.
If you're breaking down technique,
right,
fine.
Yes. Fine. If you break it down and you say, Nick Bosa's, long arm didn't look great. It collapsed on him. He didn't do this against Trent Williams. He wasn't able to get around the corner. He couldn't bend the corner. He couldn't get underneath Trent Williams. If you're talking about all that stuff, 100% break it down. I will be all in for watching and listening to that. Mm-hmm. If you're breaking down actual performance, if you're just talking about results, I don't want to hear it because results, once again, do not dictate actual success when we get into the games.
100%. And that's one of the other things to watch is when they're doing 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 type situations, execution.
Yes.
What does the execution look like? Are quarterbacks putting the ball to the right read? Are they putting the ball in the right space? Are they seeing the right things? Don't worry about whether or not the ball is being completed every single time,
right?
Whether or not there's a pick or something of that nature, because you don't know what is necessarily being asked of the quarterback. Is he being asked to try and make a throw in a tight window? Is he being asked to try and throw the ball to a certain area for a receiver to try and go up and make a play? You don't know what is being asked. What is important is, does the spacing on the route concepts look right? Okay? If they run a formation or a set or something of that nature, a scheme to get someone open and the guy's wide open and the receiver's frustrated he's not getting the ball and the quarterback put the ball somewhere else, that may be something that is a red flag because if the receiver thought he was getting something here in this space and he's wide open and he's frustrated afterwards, okay, well, maybe there was a misread here or the quarterback saw the wrong thing. So all of those things are the important aspects of 11-on-11 and 7-on-7 football. Are we going to the right place with the football, right? How does the footwork look? How does the release look? Is the timing there? Is the spacing correct? Are those things in place? Because if those things are in place, the offense can have success because you can change those pieces out as much as you want. But as long as the pieces are operating the way they're supposed to, the offense can function.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, another thing with the results, right? If you're running defense and you're running a certain zone coverage and all of a sudden, Jawan Jennings out jumps Jimmy Ward and makes a play, that is not a slight on Jimmy Ward if Jimmy Ward is in the right spot. What you want to be is in the right positions. And as long as you're running the defense the right way, 9 times out of 10, that play is not going to get made by the offensive player. It's all about doing things the right way. Everyone working together, 11 guys being in the proper positions at once. I'm more concerned with consistent blown coverages or consistently getting beat on the outside. Those would be things I would look at. Consistently a linebacker not filling his window and making plays at the point of attack. Those are things I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about, the other little things that people worry about, right? Results, like Fred Warner giving up a catch to George Kittle. Of course he did. Those are things that are okay. Is Fred Warner with him when he's making the play? Then we're all good.
Well, yeah, as Kittle is making a tough contested catch, is he being swarmed by Fred Warner?
Yeah.
Because guess what? Not every tight end in the league is George Kittle, and not every tight end is going to make that catch. And guess what? Some tight ends, 3 out of 10 times will make that catch.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're making that catch 30% of the time, I'll take those odds.
Agreed. So, that's the thing. Don't evaluate too much. Also, another thing to look at is how these rookies are being used. Also, Samson Ebukam, how he's being used as far as just even in drills. Don't freak out if he's doing the same thing every single play right now.
Yes.
Just like with Kinlaw last year. All he does is bull rush. It was all about teaching Kinlaw how to play low, how to play with leverage, so that way they could eventually develop the rest of his game. But you had to get that get off good. You had to get him off and low. Ebukam's going to be the same way. Get him off really quick. He needs to get a D forward like first step. He's used to playing linebacker where he had a bunch of different reads before he could attack. Now he's just got his hand in the ground and he's just going. Everything is more simplistic, but you have to teach him the way. So as these guys are learning, there's going to be things that look different from everyone else. Yes, they won't look as good in some of the pass rush techniques. Those things will be developed through camp. It's all a process when you're teaching these guys how to develop as football players. And once they get to a certain point, then you will see the results on the field during games. That's where you want results. Practice results do not matter because when a coach is evaluating, he's evaluating technique, not results.
100%. And don't be shocked either if after a little bit of time, especially if Ebukam is destroying in pass rushing situations and downs, if you see less of that from Ebukam and you see more of them trying to get him comfortable in base 4-3 down sets as an outside guy who can set the edge and just, again, focus on controlling an area, not letting anything get outside of him, things of that nature. They could easily mix it up, especially if someone starts to demonstrate or show something that maybe you thought needed a little more work or you needed to see more of. If Ebukam just comes out and blows everyone out of the water, right? Incredible first step, rip move off the charts, bend in the corner, just causing all sorts of problems for Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance in the pocket, and he's just looking like a monster against Mike McGlinchey because he's probably going to be going up against Mike McGlinchey a lot. Then you could very well see a shift in that dynamic and just having him now focus and work a little bit more on other aspects, trying to get him even more comfortable. Because again, the more diverse a guy like Ebukam is, the more rotations and more pieces and the more things you can do with that D-line.
Yeah, and think about that. Poor Mike McGlinchey has to go against all these guys every down.
Bosa,
he's going to be completely battle-tested. Another thing to watch is, and I kind of hinted at this a little bit, is the evaluation of where these guys are going to be playing. Right, if you see Hufanga playing in the box or in a linebacker position, or you see Tavon Wilson playing out there with 2 other safeties, how they're going to use these guys will also give you a very good idea of what this 53-man roster is going to look like. Also, what D'Amico Ryan's defense is going to look like. Mm-hmm. What kind of blitz packages they're going to put together and all that stuff. Of course, a lot of it's going to be shielded and protected, especially when media is there. They don't want to give things away. But just it'll give you an idea of how they line up and what versatility they have on each side of the ball, including where they're playing Jalen Hurd, if they're playing him alongside Debo and Brandon Ayuk, or if he's playing in certain sets. Does he go into the backfield? All those things kind of give you a glimmer of what this offense and defense could look like.
Yeah, but you're still going to see a lot of the base stuff being run because right now is all about perfecting that base, especially through the first 2 weeks of this preseason. Maybe mostly through the first week since there's only going to be 3 preseason games. They're probably only going to do it through the first week and they'll start to expand going into week 2. But they are going into this first week of preseason. It's all about perfecting this base.
Yeah.
Having the base down, having the basics down is the things that you want the Niners to be able to run consistently and effectively. Those things need to be perfected. And you're going to see a lot of guys like the big Jalen Moore question. Where is he going to be, guard or tackle? That's one to be watching as well. You talked about already Talanoa Hufanga. Where's Ambry Thomas playing? Is Ambry Thomas going out there and getting a lot of reps with Emmanuel Mosley or after Emmanuel Mosley? Because if he's getting reps with Emmanuel Mosley, then they're basically pitting these two against each other and just seeing who's doing what on what play, whose technique looks what, who's where they're supposed to be, all of those things. Is Diamador Lenore playing inside, or are they having him more on the outside? All of those questions are going to give you an insight into what direction they are trying to take this team and how they're trying to construct this 53-man roster.
Yeah, and the vanilla that they're going to run in preseason is going to be real. It's going to be a vanilla defense. It's going to be a vanilla offense. They're not going to tip their hand on anything.
They're not going to run the Trey offense?
No, don't be shocked if they don't run, reverses and they don't run those counters and they don't move Jalen Hurd all over and Deebo Samuel all over. That stuff is not going to happen. You're going to run a traditional style offense, the Jimmy offense, and you're going to go out there and you're just going to, execute at the top level that you can. But that'll be nice seeing these guys get reps in preseason against another team. Trey Lance, Trey Sermon, these guys, just seeing what they can do out there is also going to give a great signal to what we can expect when these guys can start in the regular season.
100%. I mean, there are so many storylines to watch. There are so many players to watch, whether they're in a position battle or whether they're just a guy that's out there in space because they may be doing multiple things and trying to do multiple things with this person. But man, I'll tell you what, I cannot wait for this to happen. I cannot wait to talk about this even more and get just in depth on this. There are so many possibilities. There's so many options for this 49ers team. This roster is stacked with talent, and there's going to be position battles galore. There's going to be entertaining 11-on-11 sessions, right? Just combination sessions. I cannot wait for them to have their joint practice with the Chargers. That's going to be a lot of fun. This is the most exciting training camp in the last 5-6 years.
It feels like that. It really does. I think last year all of our minds were on revenge. We're not on revenge now. We're on hope for the future. There's a new hope here in San Francisco, and we're looking at just everything that could be, everything that could happen with these nice rookie players. They're exciting. The addition of Alex Mack, Ebukam, all these guys. It's just an exciting time to be a 49ers fan. Training camp is going to be exciting to watch. You're right. The storylines we've talked about, once again, just with all things, remember, when you're getting fed results in practice, do not look at results. Look at the process of, if someone's breaking down the process and then they talk about the end result at the end, that is fine. But if they're not talking about the process at all, they're only talking about the end result.
He was 5 for 10 for 125 yards and 5 picks.
Well, that means you're not an evaluator of talent. You're an evaluator of circumstance. And you can
statistics.
You're a viewer, basically, is what you are. And viewers are fine, and that is completely okay. But just try to give in-depth analysis on what's going on. Results do not matter to that level in practice. They do sometimes in certain situations. Drops and stuff like that on certain situations do matter. But end results usually don't matter. It's the technique and everything involved that does.
100%, especially with the young guys. If you're trying to break down how many times they were successful against a certain look or a certain guy, it's just don't, because they may not be working on beating their player, but they're working on a specific type of technique.
Yep.
And they're putting them in the worst possible scenario to execute the technique. You're going to have to try and reach and get this guy turned, and he's going to start in a tech outside your shoulder. Have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun against one of these elite linemen and this front seven and try and, again, I want to see you fight. I want to see you claw. I want to see how crafty you can be. Let's see how clean that technique is. They may lose that battle in practice in a situation in which they're designed, the drill is designed for them to fail. They may only be successful 2 times out of 15. If you look at that and are like, man, this guy sucks, it's like, well, why? What's the reason why he's failing? Is the drill designed to be as hard as possible, or is the drill designed for success and this guy just can't do it? Right? There has to be a method to there has to be a reasoning to get to the end result. If you don't know what it is they're trying to assess, then just taking the end result is ignoring what the actual process is, and you may draw the completely wrong conclusion.
Well, drills aren't designed for a result in that drill.
Correct.
They're designed for a result on the field. What they're designed to do is get you better.
Mm-hmm.
So you're developing all different things. On this exact drill, you could be focusing on footwork 1 second, and the next second trying to make that footwork go up into your legs and hips, and then eventually up to your upper body, depending on what the drill is and what position you play. Everything has to work together. Everything has to be fluid. Taking it by points and steps, you're focusing on a different thing. If you're focusing on a press, you might want to get your hand in a certain location. So you're just working on that the whole time. where you got to make sure also you get your feet together. You got to make sure you're able to turn your hips. You got to make sure your hand is able to be guided with the wide receiver as he's going to make his move. There's a lot that goes into it. Evaluating that's why one-on-ones are so dangerous. Just because they've learned it in drills one day
doesn't mean it translates.
Doesn't mean it works that day.
Correct.
But what you're hoping is eventually when it becomes muscle memory and they're used to doing it all the time and they know the technique inside and out, they can execute when the bullets start flying.
Correct, because just because you learn something doesn't mean you're able to translate all your power and comfortability into it. You may place your hand correctly 9 out of 10 times in a drill with a bag. And then there's a moving body with a guy who's fighting that arm off, and the hand placement's there, but there's no power behind the hand placement. Because all you're comfortable with right now is, I know I'm supposed to put my hand here, but it's not necessarily just about putting your hand there. Sometimes it's about leverage, sometimes it's about power, sometimes it's about that first punch and getting that guy off his base and off his balance so that he can't get his hand off of you or get to the location he wants to get. If he's trying to get a rip move and dip the shoulder, you get the hand in the right spot, that's fine. But if there's no power behind it, I mean, it's just going to slide right off.
Yeah, it's more important about recognition. As long as you can read what's coming, look at if you're a defensive player and you can look at the offense and get an idea of what's coming, that is way more important than the actual execution on one-on-one drills, because that will create anticipation. Anticipation and being a good football player, smart football player, is more important than overall results in a technique drill. So as long as you do that, you're going to be fine.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it all translate and all play out. Let us know what you think about these things to watch. Did we miss anything? Do you disagree completely? You have to analyze the one-on-ones and the 7-on-7s and all the stats that come with it and ignore everything else. Let's have this conversation down below in the comment section. Comment away, and while you're down there, don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And most importantly, share the video with the faithful, so that way, if all they're doing is listening to the things not to watch that some of these other channels are putting out there, you can course correct them and get them on the right path, right? The path towards the good side, towards the light, towards that new hope that is building in San Francisco in this training camp.
Yes, and express your passion. I'm passionate about football. Alex is passionate about football. We're passionate about how football works and how everyone is, able to develop their talents. That is why we talk about this with so much passion as we do. And that's why we're so excited for training camp. And that's why preseason, the end of the games, are sometimes some of the most exciting times for me. That's the old ball coach in me coming out. But that is something that I'm looking forward to. And I'm curious what everyone thinks about our perspectives on how we see football in this episode, and then eventually once we get to preseason and the regular season.
Absolutely, man. This is exciting times. I didn't realize how much I missed training camp and preseason until this very moment. It's here, folks. Cannot wait to see what happens. But until the next time, and until we actually get to see training camp unfold, you stay safe, 49ers fans.
And remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.